Welcome back, everybody, to the gray space, and we got another good one for you today.
Yes. Make sure you subscribe to become part of the tribe. Do us right, hit that like and comment if you're rocking with the content. Now, after some long travels, we were able to get a very, very special guest in the building. And as we always say, he's the most recent.
So he's the most special.
So he's the most special for sure. Our guest today has been broadcasting professionally since 2005, which is kind of crazy for me to think about because that's when I graduated. From Power 92, Power 98, 101 FM The Beat, Mega 104.3, and so much more. Now the creator and the voice of CIVIC CIPHER, which is syndicated nationally on your favorite radio stations. Yeah. Brand ambassador, worldwide DJ, business owner, philanthropist, and the list keeps going on and on. He's your favorite host. We got Ramses in the building. What's up, Ramses?
That is such a kind intro. Thank you so much.
Hey, man, you got it.
That is very kind.
Got it. Thanks for coming through, man.
Of course, happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming to SoCal AZ.
Yeah, SoCal, Arizona is what we call it. You know what I mean?
I see why.
Hop in the skip. You right in LA. You know what I'm saying?
You might as well just keep going, man. You're almost there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So I'm going to jump right into it, man. We're going to get right into it.
Let's do it.
I want to talk about the early days, man. I always like to get into people's origin stories. I'm a big Marvel, DC comic fan, and as you see from the artwork behind you, and I like to get into the origin story. So tell us how you got into music, DJing, radio, all of it. Tell us kind of the beginning, how you got into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So it started probably high school. So there was a coalescence of a lot of different things in my story, at least.
Okay.
There's my best friend and like lifelong traveling companion.
Okay.
His name is Theo Gio.
Okay. Yep. Theo Gio. Yep.
Yeah. So we went to high school together. Okay. And we became like real tight real early.
Okay.
So I'm talking like maybe 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
And he's from New York, so he just kind of had like a New York walk, talk, etc.
Yeah.
And he really thought and was right, but he was like, yo, I could really rap. And we started to get him to rap at lunch and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And he would just like freestyle for us, right? So we loved that. At the same time, I have an older brother named Raka, Irish Science of the Dilated Peoples.
Okay.
So Dilated was doing big things in LA.
Yeah.
They signed to Capitol Records.
For sure.
They put out The Platform, which is their first album, and they were touring that album.
Okay.
And they had kind of released some indie vinyl. I think they still have the record for the second best-selling piece of independent vinyl ever.
That's crazy. Wow.
Dilated Peoples is underground hip hop out of LA. Yeah. So they were an indie group, and then they signed to Capitol, and so now they have like major label budgets and tour stuff or whatever. So now they started coming to Arizona, and I was out here, and my little sisters were out here and whatever. So it was really important that I took Gio to Dilated shows because I was like, yo, my man got bars.
Yeah.
And of course my brother's got connections.
Right.
A lot of folks in Phoenix, but I mean, I guess a lot of folks around the world now, especially that this past year. But the name Bootleg Kev, he's been
man. Shout out to Bootleg Kev.
Yeah, that's my guy. So he's I met Kevin when he was 3 years old. So all of the hip hop, stuff that
that's crazy.
People that try to like take that away from Kevin, they don't recognize that coding in his system is honest coding that comes from me. You know what I mean? That was my guy. His mom didn't want him getting caught up in gangs, and my mom went to church, so she was like, "Oh, you can play with him,"
right?
But she didn't want him playing with nobody else.
Okay.
She knew I was on the, So we just grew up together. So when my brother started releasing his albums and touring, whenever they would have a tour stop in Phoenix, I would take D'Angelo, I met D'Angelo when we was probably 13.
Okay.
8th grade, I met D, and so D'Angelo, he was a singer for those that follow radio in Phoenix at least, or Detroit because he's out there. But he does the midday show at Power 98 right now, syndicated from Detroit. But anyway, so these were all my friends that I loved, and then they got to know each other backstage at these Dilated shows.
Right.
And so, it just kind of came. We kind of came tight, and I realized, okay, Kevin, he wants to be a DJ when he gets older. Gio wants to be a rapper, of course, and D'Angelo is a singer, right? So my brain is telling me, dang, the only thing is missing is we don't have no music, we don't have no producers, we don't have nobody to put it together, we don't have no managers.
Right.
So everything that they weren't, I thought, I was a kid, so I was thinking like, I'm gonna do all that.
Yeah.
Because I got some connections. In Arizona, nobody really has connections. So
Right.
If I can at least knock on one door in LA, my networking will get me through the rest of the doors.
Right.
So I started trying to like learn the business, and then I learned studio recording, which later helped me when it came time to do radio stuff. And I learned how to play a couple of instruments, little keys, how to get around in a music production studio.
Okay.
And then I would take like student loan money and buy like equipment from Guitar Center.
For sure.
I thought in my brain I was like, okay, I'm gonna make these beats. D'Angelo's gonna sing the hooks. You know what I'm saying? Gio's gonna rap on them, and then when we go on tour, Kev's gonna be the DJ.
Right.
I'm gonna be the manager.
So we had like the plan sounded great.
And the beautiful thing, not to fast forward too far, but the beautiful thing about that story is that the people that I loved the most as a child, not only did they all grow up and thrive and flourish, nobody really got left behind that belonged in the story, but really we all got to do the same thing because we're all professional broadcasters. And that's just what we do now. So anyway, back to the story. Not to be too long-winded, but I want to make sure I give you the details.
Yeah, we want the story, bro.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so I would be backstage at my brother's shows. I ended up meeting a dude named Matlocks, who I love. That's my guy. We all love Matlocks.
Shout out to Matlocks, man. Yeah, we love him, man.
Matt is he's a lot of people's OG, but Matt knows he's like my OG. Matt still can tell me, go wash my car, and I'll go wash his car. Right. I'll never be too big.
Yeah, there's always those people in our life for sure.
Man, that's my guy, man. I love Matt. So yeah, I ended up meeting Matt, and then we ended up having a conversation because Matt's a big Dilated fan. So I ended up meeting him at a movie theater, and he mentioned to me, he's like, hey man, why don't you apply for the internship program at the radio station? Maybe there's something there, whatever. And I was like, dope, man. I never even thought of that. I was going to go to school to, I was at it's called the W.P. Carey School of Business at Arizona State. Yeah. So I was going to business school, and then I was going to go to law school. So I was going to go into corporate law.
Wow.
I was able to take test well, so I'm glad I didn't do that.
Right.
More fun life now.
Yeah.
That's such a boring thing. But at the time, I was thinking money. I didn't really understand the purpose of life, and then I had children, and really was able to kind of experience the richness as my path unfolded in front of me. So I'm very glad I didn't do that. But at the time, I was thinking that. So when Matt put that thought in my head that it was possible, I was like, "You mean that's real?" People like kids. I think that, at least for practical people, I think I kind of grew up with just kind of a more pragmatic appreciation for life.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to, you can be an astronaut, you can play in the NBA, all those things sound just fantastic.
Sound great.
Yeah, they sound great, but it's not like really real. You have to think of something. What can you do?
Right.
Exactly.
Everybody says you can do anything, but no, really, what can you do?
Yeah.
So when Matt said that to me, like, you mean I could go to the radio station? I was like, oh my God. But at the time I was still in school, so I had a conversation with Gio, and Gio, he had moved to New York for a little bit and moved back.
Okay.
And so I mentioned it to him, and he was like, bet. And he applied and got, hired in at the radio station. I couldn't do it just yet. So he was there for about a full calendar year, so that might have been my, sophomore year, junior year in college, something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, after he'd been there for that whole time, then I didn't have that school schedule, so then I applied, and I met a dude named Squeak Boogie. Squeak is a music producer guy too, but he's also the morning. He does the morning show at one of the Audacity stations. I think not Camel, but what's the other station they have? Shoot, Cool FM.
Okay.
I didn't remember his station.
FM. Yep,
I love you, Squeak. I love you so much, dog. Anyway, so Squeaker, the beat freaker, coming through your speaker. Yeah. Squeak, he kind of took a liking to me because we both kind of made beats. I had learned from a dude named Jamie Weddle at junior college. I went to a school called Phoenix College.
Okay.
I learned, Jamie taught me how to do studio production, and then I just kind of learned on my own from a dude named Marlon Price and some other folks how to like work the keys and sequence a beat. And APC. Shout out to Mustafa. Shout out
to Mustafa, man, for sure.
His beats. Anyway, so these guys, kind of got me together, made sure that I could. And shout out to Gigolo, and shout out to Perry too. And shout out to, I'm gonna miss all of y'all. I don't mean to miss y'all, but you know who you are, and I love you. So anyway, I gotta tell the story.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so I kind of learned all this stuff. I mean, Squeak's like, yo, man, let's link up, let's do something. And then, so I would rock with Squeak as an intern. I would hang out with him, and we just work on the music stuff. And then at the daytime, Mad Rich was really important to me, kind of getting started. Mad Rich, Mike, and then of course like the higher ups, Bruce St. James, and everyone else. But Mad Rich was like, yo, this dude, he really works when he goes out on the street. Gio had already been hired, so he worked for Power. I was an intern.
Right.
So Rich took a liking to me on that side. Squeak took a liking to me on the like production on air side.
Okay.
So Squeak would let me voice his commercials.
Okay.
So you get them scripts and like, welcome to eTelecare.
Yeah. We've done it. We've done a couple. Yeah.
So eTelecare, we can start you up at $8 an hour. Right. So Squeak would have me reading those scripts. Yeah, man. He would have me reading the scripts, and I would edit them down, and then I jump in the power vans or the power trucks with Mad Rich, and we would just drive around, do flavor units, and do all kind of other stuff we shouldn't have been doing.
Right.
I ain't gonna put his business out there. But I was way out of pocket sometimes.
Okay.
But anyway, man, we had a good time, and Rich just kind of saw my work ethic, and he was like, I really want to make sure that we get you hired. And there was a dude named Dion McBean who was able to see it too. He was like kind of in charge of the internship program, and of course Matlock's kind of knew me, so when the time came, I got hired. One semester after I got onto the program, remember Gio worked there.
Right.
A year after Gio worked there, I got hired as an intern. The next semester, Bootleg Kev and D'Angelo came in as interns too.
Dope.
But then because we were all rooting for these are our guys.
Right.
We've been rocking
the home team.
Backstage, dilated,
It's the home team.
So we all had a plan.
For sure.
Anyway, they'll all say that I'm like kind of their biggest cheerleader because I kind of am. I love those dudes, but anyway, we got in there, and then they ended up hiring me right before they flipped to 98.3. So I had worked there, but then I got formally hired and got a paycheck.
Okay.
And then they took me off the promotions team, and they put me on to doing the production like what Squeak did, and then they moved Squeak to imaging. Imaging is like a commercial, but for the radio station, so it sounds like bigger and better produced. So
okay.
Like, the concert of the century.
Oh, okay,
that sort of stuff.
Fire.
Versus the eTelecare stuff, right?
Right.
So Squeak moved into that arena, and I was like voicing the constipation pills and commercials, Coca-Cola and stuff like that. So I was doing that.
Yeah.
And so we rocked that out for a little bit, and the good thing was Matlock's once again was that was kind of the crew that I felt most drawn to, because remember I kind of grew up with that underground appreciation.
Right.
I liked all hip hop music, but that appreciation for like underground keep it real music that really meant something. And Matt did a show called Friday Night Flavors.
Yep.
And so Matt would let me come up on Flavors, and one day I asked him, I was like, "Hey dog, you think I could do a feature on Flavors?" He's like, "What you got in mind?" I was like, "I'll call it Live on Stage." So if for those who don't listen to Dilated Peoples, they have a song called Live on Stage. So in my mind, it was like I can give my brother a spin every week in Phoenix, at least,
Right.
And also I can like shout out some upcoming concerts, and I can pre-record it because I was nervous at first, and it would give me some value, some way to say, yeah, I'm actually on the radio, because that's the one thing people ask, like, do you actually talk on the radio? I'm like, yeah, I record commercials. And
right.
I want to hear what you have to say. So that was my way of kind of coming out of that shell. And Matt greenlit it. He was like, yeah, man, absolutely, man, do your thing. So I would record a little minute segment and ship that off. And then a little bit later, Matt ended up getting hired away to, it was called 1015 Jams. They flipped the station, so they took Matt away. So then, boom, I'm in there with Squeak for like 3 weeks, and then immediately they took Squeak away. So Squeak got hired away, but there were great opportunities for them.
Right.
But now I have this show, so I'm like, shoot, let me get Yaya Martinez. Let me get as many people in this room. Let me get Mustafa, of course. Let me get Bootleg Kev, because he knows the music even better than I do. Matt Rich, of course. All these people. So we started doing Friday Night Flavors ourselves, and
what was that?
After that, it started to snowball into a full career. So that's kind of the origin story of Ramses on the radio.
Okay. Yeah. What was that feeling like when, you go from things kind of being consistent, and then now it's boom, 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 all these moves are happening, and now you're thrown into the fire, so to speak. What was that feeling like for you? I mean, obviously nervous, but how long did it take you to really get used to it?
Shoot, still getting used to it.
Okay.
But no, you know what? For anybody listening and anybody that is walking not just this path, any path, I can look back at it now and say that it was the best thing for me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? There was a lot of opportunities or a lot of instances in my journey where me getting kind of pushed out of the nest was the best thing for me, because my wings were strong enough, but I didn't know that because I had never had to use them before.
Say that.
Right?
Yeah.
So Matt leaving, as I mentioned, I love Matt. I didn't want him to leave, but I recognize that's my guy. He needs to grow.
Do his thing.
He needs to grow. Same with Squeak. Me and Squeak was like this. You know what I'm saying? We made BC. We lived in the same place. We drove the same car. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was my guy. And when he left, I was like, yo. And then, of course, Kevin. I know Kevin since he was a baby. Right. Literally a baby. So, I was still surrounded by people that loved me and I could do something with. But in terms of me believing in myself, it took me a long time before I could really do it. And it wasn't even at that point. I didn't really start believing in myself until probably, we'll call it 2009, 2010.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it took a while. I mean, I knew that I can do the job, the mechanical part of it. If I do this, then I do this, and I do this, and then then the records or the ratings won't count against me because I did what I was told. Right. But in terms of me stepping out and realizing, like, wait a minute, my brain is good. My brain can come up with ideas, and I can say them out of my mouth, and then it comes into the real world. Right. And I have the power to do that. Yeah. That was a revelation that I didn't discover until years after the whole Matlock's leaving and everything like that. So that was sort of the catalyst, them leaving, of me saying, okay, well, I have to do it now. Right. Because I'll never get an opportunity like this again, so I have to do it. But once it started to settle and I started to see the manifestation of these, I'll tell a quick story. So I used to, I had this crush on this girl. A lot of stories start that way. Yeah.
And all the best success stories start with some type of girl in there. Yeah, man. Some type of love interest.
Right.
Yeah. So I used to have a thing for this girl, and her name was Kim. Okay. And Kim she was like really drawn to like musical types, right? Okay. Musical type of people. That's just kind of that's who she is as a person, right? Right. And I hadn't really tapped into that vein. I kind of knew it was there, but I hadn't really tapped into it. I had done like some writings and poems, things like that. But in terms of finding the way to fully express it, it hadn't quite happened for me yet. Okay. And long and the short of it is, I kind of fumbled the bag on her, or she fumbled it on me. One of the two, but it didn't work out. It didn't come together. And I remember thinking like that was the reason, right? So I always thought, I need to become successful enough to where she will be able to see it, because the Kim days were long before social media, so it wasn't like you could put it and hope someone will share it with her. I had to do something huge in order for it to land on her radar. So I was like, you know what? and there was a couple other women that I was into as well, but she was kind of a big one. So I was like, dang, I had a conversation with Gio. Hey man, you be Jay-Z, I'll be Dame Dash. Make sure you put me on the cover of the Source with you.
Yo,
you know what I mean? That's our plan, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, if you can do that for me, and I want one more thing, I want you to put me on a billboard. And Gio of course was like, say less, dog, because I got Gio like knew I got him, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah. Years later, those things were kind of still in my brain. That's why I've been on the cover of so many magazines, because I would say it, whatever. And it wasn't like, I don't think Kim will listen to this, but if it wasn't to like knock anybody or whatever, it just kind of, once I realized how to do it, I was like, oh, rinse and repeat. Do the same thing with the next magazine. Rinse and repeat. Do the next one. You know what I mean? And then, the truth is, it just kind of put an idea in my head that was like, I need to be bigger than I am to matter, right? I'm not, for people that have never met me, I'm physically not a big person. I'm 5'8", I weigh 130 pounds, 40 pounds, something like that. I don't really weigh myself, but I mean, I feel like I look okay, and that's all that really matters. But yeah, so, but it was one of those things about really making sure that I mattered, you know what I mean? I had gone through some early stuff, just in brief, my mom abandoned me and my sisters. That's basically what happened when I might have been maybe 16, 17, something like that. They were a lot younger than me, so I ended up finding they were a big part of my consciousness at the time, worrying about my sisters. Do they got training bras and back to school clothes and everything they need? My grandma had to move here to Arizona to take care of them, so I'm like working and giving her money and everything.
You had to grow up quick.
But anyway, that fundamentally, it took me years to find out this was true, but it fundamentally changed how I viewed myself. Is like I didn't really think I was that lovable, and so a lot of times when I would be involved with a woman, I would, maybe equate the two, like maybe I'm not lovable, so I have to make sure that I'm doing so much more. So billboards, like the wildest thing you could think of.
Yeah.
Anyway, years later, I ended up making sure that I was on a ton of billboards and a ton of magazines and all that sort of TV and everything. But yeah, so it wasn't until I got that stride in probably 2008, 2009 when I really started to lean into the idea that, man, this is like it's okay, because you have real bad imposter syndrome. I didn't go to broadcast school. No one taught me how to do none of that stuff.
It wasn't the conventional way.
Yeah. The truth is, all joking, I'll admit it openly, because shout out to credit where it's due. But I would just turn on the mics in the studio and try to sound like J times 3. That was what I did. And in the club, when I got a mic in the club, I turned the mic on and I tried to sound like DOGO. Those are the people that I thought sounded good in those environments. And years later, I learned a lot from Freshmaker too. I don't really like people on mics in clubs because they all suck.
Okay.
Except Freshmaker and Gio. And shout out Luciano, I like him too.
Okay, yeah.
And there's a couple. I'm being mean. But.
What is it? Why do you?
I just feel like I maybe I'm just being funny, but I know how I think stuff should sound. I know how I feel like some people get on the mic because they want to be the man, right? And one thing to be fair is, I hope this doesn't sound as how it's going to sound. I hope it doesn't. I'm sorry if it does, but I kind of been the man for a really long time, so I don't need to be the man in front of 400 people. I've been the man around the earth. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
you just stating facts.
Yeah,
but
it
just is what it is.
When you have a story like that, sometimes it sounds like you're feeling yourself, and that's not really it. So people just like shouting out their Instagram and like, me. What I think of is like, I think of an MC in a nightclub, at least. I know there's conversation all over the place, but while we're here.
It's a podcast, man. It's all over the place. It's supposed to be that
all
way.
Good.
Yeah.
But in a nightclub setting, I feel like you are kind of like, as an MC, you are not the star of the show, despite having the mic. The DJ is the star of the show, right? Yes. And if the DJ is the star of the show, and I'm a DJ, so one of the things that I feel like makes all those guys that are really good on the mic, really good at what they do, is how they're all DJs too. Fresh makers to DJ, whoever else, so they know how to read the DJ and what the DJ is doing or where the DJ is going. They listen to music a little differently, and they help package the set and sell it to the crowd. Right. So once you mess up that formula, like yo, it's about me. Oh, yo, I'm gonna clown this one group over here, or whatever, like this sort of stuff.
Right.
I mean, a little bit of that's fine. You know what I mean? And I can't remember everybody's name, but there's a couple of people. I don't want it to seem like I'm hating.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that do it wrong, and then it takes away from the experience. Like, dog, if you're gonna be like that, just let the DJ rock, man. We don't need that.
Right.
It's like seasoning. It can make it a little bit better, or it can make it a lot worse.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
true.
Fact.
That's true. Too much salt is too much salt.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, and when I got into nightclub setting, I just tried to pretend like DOG on the radio. I tried to sound like J Times. I didn't try to sound like him because I don't sound like him, but I tried to
emulate the way
he turned on the mic. For people that have been in the studio with him, he'd be talking to you just like me and you. He turned on like, it's time 3, baby. You know what I'm saying? He would just go in. He would turn all the way up, and I was like, yo, it's just that electricity and that energy. And it's a lot of people that say a lot of things about J Times 3, but Jay always been cool with me. Y'all, anybody that knows me, it don't take much. Jay was black, so you won't get me to say nothing bad about Jay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he didn't do anything bad, but you know what I'm saying? Like, same with a lot of people. Like, maybe in private conversations, I might say something about a different person if I, whatever, but I would never say something publicly about a black man who's feeding his family.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not the person that'll air that laundry out.
For sure.
Like that. It's not my way. So, but yeah, those people, they really inspired me, and I learned a lot from them at different points along the way. And, Fresh, I learned a little bit later, but I certainly tightened up a lot of stuff. And Fresh, admittedly, learned a lot from me too.
Yeah.
And that's my guy, man. That's my brother too. So, it's a lot of love in this city, man. I'm just glad to be a part of it. So,
and I think one of the dopest things, kind of watching the growth of, when you say these names, and people really got to understand that, like, there was a time when the city was a little separated in some ways, but what's been dope is, like, when it comes to you and the bootleg Kevs, and the DJ Fresh makers, and the list goes on and on. TLG's, like, the camaraderie that stayed between all of you, and how that's really contributed to your guys' success. Over the years, it's like that. I feel like, just as an outsider looking in, that a lot of that, a lot of the reason for your guys' success was, like you said, I'm putting on for the home team, and we're always going to put on for each other, and how that hasn't been broken throughout the years, and that's not something that's very common, especially in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, man, it's a handful of people that got the keys to my house, where my sons come and they lay down at night and they know where I live, and what I'm saying, it's a handful of people that know how to find the keys to my car. If something happens, they could find a couple of my watches and sell them, or whatever. And those names. Shout out C. Bradley. He's the guy that owns Armadale and Hip Hop Weekly, him and Q Ward, all that sort of stuff. So, it's a handful of people, but yeah, absolutely. If somebody's struggling, then that means I'm struggling, and if somebody's up, that means I'm up. You know what I mean? So every time, Bootleg Kevin lands a crazy interview with some new artist, that means I landed that interview, and I'm bigging up my brother. I'm always going to do it. Yeah. It's hard to explain to people that don't get it, because a lot of people, you don't realize that you have this fairy tale life until you have to look back on it. But a lot of people, they don't have friends, from when I met Kevin when I was 7 years old. I'm 39. So my whole life, I was still losing teeth.
Right.
When I met Kevin. Kevin didn't even have all his teeth grown in.
Right. He's still rocking the baby boys.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And to grow up with somebody like that, Gio, we've been up and down, and what I'm saying, we did stuff together when it got rough, and we did celebrate it when it was good, and what I'm saying, fortunately we're in our grown man now, so just having all of that at your back, not everybody is friends with these people, but people that's in your life, what I'm saying, if you got some people that you really rock with and that you really ride with, that's a blessing. I think that's something that, incomparable in terms of its contribution to the overall trajectory of your life. You
For
know
sure.
what I mean?
For sure.
You got the right people around you. You know, I think it's a lot of sayings about that, but, you know, your network is your net worth. And then you show me who a person hangs out with, and I'll show you, you know, their future prospects or whatever, you know, that business-based wisdom.
Yeah.
And I believe that,
that's very true.
I hung out with some good people, but I tried to be a good person my whole life. And also, I will say this, the people that I hung out with, they really did hang out with me. A lot these people, they learned from me. They, you know, it was mutual. You know what I mean? But more than anything, I'm grateful that I was able to contribute in meaningful ways. You know, be it Kevin listening to, you know, when I got Wu-Tang and had Snoop Dogg albums and stuff like that, and then me wanting to go get them, and, you know, me being into basketball. You know, Kev is from like Sunny Slope, you know, so he's, you know, and his dad is like a, you know, cowboy, you know what I mean? And his mom is, you know, his mom is his mom, you know what I mean? And then I'm in the house like, you know, with the Magic Shaq jersey, and I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Hey, look at this new, you know, Warren G album or whatever, you know what I'm saying? This is years ago. I mean, it's early 90s. You know, I met Kevin in 1990, so. So yeah, man. And then of course the same way with D'Angelo, you know, we done cried together, man. You know, I'm not saying stuff that people don't already know, but, you know, he went through some stuff with his mom. She had to, you know, sit down for a minute, and, you know, we was trying to figure out what the next step was by ourselves. We was boys. Yeah. You know, not like boys like that's my boy, but we were literally boys, not old enough to do things. Yeah. So we had to ride couches and, you know, figure out where the food was going to come from, put together some money, get a car, share it, you know, figure out how to get to school, get through school, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. All of that, man. So, you know, I'm just, if you got people like that in your life, man, you just don't turn your back on them. And then, you know, I just got real fortunate in that I got a strong team, and I, obviously, you know, my family, my sisters and my brothers, they love me too. But you know, in terms of the professional part of my life, you know, it's very fortunate for me that I've been able to mix that professional stuff with like the people that I actually wanted to actually
rock with. Yeah. And that's dope. That's dope.
Yeah.
So can we roll it back just a little bit? Because you were doing, you started the radio, or you did the internship at the radio. You were also going to college, correct?
Yeah.
And you also graduated with a master's degree?
I did.
In business?
Yeah. So that is kind of it has a strange relationship with radio. Okay. So what happened is, like I said, I was going to school. I graduated in 2005. I started at Power in 2005 as an intern. Okay. Right? I graduated with a bachelor's in... Oh my God, it's on the wall. Bachelor's in marketing.
Oh, okay.
Marketing. From the WP Carey School. And that was that. I was in the game. I had a college degree, for better or worse. And where I was going, you know, I knew, like, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make something. If they let me in that door, they not gonna want me to leave. So I got in there, and I was like, you know, I wasn't thinking about school. School was something I had done. But I'm gonna let y'all in on a little secret. Okay. So that recession of 2008 hit, and that changed a lot of stuff. Of stuff. Yep. So when that recession hit, you know, a lot of money stopped moving, and I ended up getting let go from Power just before I went to the beat. So I was out of work for about, maybe we'll call it like 3 months. Okay. Which is amazing. That's such a short amount of time to be out of work. I had like severance pay, of course, and then I had some you could get unemployment. Yeah, right? Unemployment. Yeah. I had a mortgage, so unemployment wasn't doing nothing for keeping my house. But people were losing their house at the time. So there was programs. We was all trying to figure it out. I was dating a girl named Sonia at the time, and she was a dancer. So she got some money, and we were able to kind of float during that time. Shout out to her, man, because she was somebody that believed in me when I was at a low point. But anyway, we got this unemployment money coming in, all this sort of stuff, and then I'm like, dang, this ain't gonna work. And I put 2 and 2 together, and I was driving on the freeway one day, And if you're in Arizona, there's a freeway, I forget what it's called, the 10 maybe, and it goes by a building that says University of Phoenix, which is, University of Phoenix is based in Phoenix, right? Mm-hmm. So I got this idea like, shoot, if I went back to school, I could probably get some more of that student loan money, right? But I had a degree. Well, I wasn't trying to get evicted. I had a son. I'm not trying to be on the street.
No, I respect it.
And you didn't know what you didn't know. In the middle of it, you didn't. We can look back on it and be like, yeah, everybody can figure it out. But in the middle of it, you're like, yo, I didn't pay the mortgage last 2 months. Yeah. The police can come and kick me out. And my son, where am I taking him? So I was just whatever, and that's kind of how I am, man. If it gets my back's to the wall, I mean, I'm not like a grimy dude, you know what I'm saying? But I am from Compton, you know what I'm saying? I done seen some stuff. But just like anybody, I'm not going to take it away from you, no matter where you're from. I know if your back's up against the wall and you got to feed your babies, it don't matter if you're from Compton or you're from, the Hamptons, you're going to feed your babies,
You got to do what you got to do, facts.
Exactly. So, short of robbing somebody or taking that route, which really isn't me. I don't know if you could tell, but that's not really my style.
Right.
I was like, shoot, let me see if I can get some more money to, put this money like as a Band-Aid over this time in my life until I can figure out what the next step is. Or whatever. And so I went there, I enrolled in school, and I was like, run me that student loan money. And they were like, cool, because I had good grades. So there was, absolutely. So I got in school, they gave me the money, and then they were like, all right, now here, you got to take these classes. And I was like,
Right. The caveat. Right.
So as it turned out, what happened was, I ended up taking classes, and at first it wasn't too bad. And then my grandma ended up having a stroke. A person whose name might come up is a dude named Frederico. Frederico is not a bad person, but in my story might sound like a bad person. So every time I talk about him, especially nowadays, I try to make sure people don't think of him as a bad person. He's just a person who made a bad decision at the wrong time to the wrong person. But Frederico was the person who said, hey, man, you don't got to come to this radio station. Go take care of your grandma. She had a stroke. Be with your family. You can voice track your show. You can come here 1 hour a week if this necessary.
Okay.
But during that time, as far as school is concerned, I had to take a leave of absence. And then, a year later, they were like, hey, look, so you can either owe back this money and not have a degree, or you can owe back this money and have a degree. So I was like, shoot, all right, let's finish it. So I knuckled down and finished, and I got my master's. Wow. So it's nothing to really write home about. I guess it is, because my dad was really upset before he passed. He was upset that he never got to see me graduate, even though I graduated a ton of times. And then my aunt was really upset too, because I guess people make a big deal out of that. But I think, again, that goes back to my mom thinking, I'm like, this isn't good enough. Because when you graduate from ASU, it's a bachelor's degree. Nobody makes a big deal out of bachelor's degree. Everybody gets bachelor's degree. Right. I'm not going to have people come from California to watch me for 4 seconds walk across the stage. It's silly. Right. And then when I got my master's, I was like, it's University of Phoenix. It's not the biggest school. It's not like Harvard. So I always get in my head. So I never told anybody. And then all of a sudden they see them all on the wall, and they're like, yo, when did you do all this?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that was years ago. And they're like, yo, and they're so mad. So yeah.
No, that's a big achievement, though.
Thank you, man.
That is a legit big achievement, because I don't know. I don't run across a lot of people that have a master's degree. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, there's people that have associates and bachelors.
Sure.
But I just don't run across a lot of people that have master's degrees, dude. So when I read that, I was like, man, that's pretty dope. Has that ever come into play where you've used some of that business stuff that you've learned?
Yeah. So watch this. Remember I told you about them billboards? Mm-hmm. So the first time I got on a billboard, this is not the story, but the first time I got on a billboard was because Talking Stick got me some billboards. Yeah. Because they have a club on the roof. Talking Stick is a casino, for those that don't know. It's like a huge nightlife attraction here in Scottsdale, Arizona.
For sure.
But a couple years after that, maybe, the Maricopa County Department of Public Health came to our radio station, and they were talking to this guy named Craig, I think his name was. He was like the sales manager. Craig Boston, yeah. So they were talking to him, and they're like, listen, man, we really need to get information into the Black community, and we need to get information into the Hispanic community. Okay. You know what I mean? About STD awareness, where you can get tested, how you can get treated, because people are becoming barren or infertile. You know, people are, you know, there's spikes in HIV cases and stuff, is particularly in the gay and homosexual community, or however the language was. I don't want to misspeak, but they had an appeal, and they came to us because they're like, we can't afford any of the Suns people to endorse it. We can't afford any of the Cardinals people, you know. And there's nobody black on the radio out here anymore, because at the time J times 3 had left. So in terms of somebody functioning in a full-time capacity on a radio station, I was that dude if you're looking for someone black. And so Craig pulled me aside, and he talked to me. He's like, hey, would you be comfortable endorsing this? And because of that angle, it was like, hey, you're going to be able to help black people, because you can look at the data, and this information needs to make its way to this community. Right. Like a lot of things, bad things, that disproportionately affect black people, you know, for one reason or another. Right. And so if you have this tremendous opportunity, if they put a microphone in front of your face and they give you 250,000 people to listen to your show, sometimes you got to do the right thing. Yeah, you know? For not sure. Sometimes for me, because it's all the time, but sometimes you got to do something that's not like, hey, we're giving out Boosie tickets. You know what I'm saying? You got to say something real. Right. So that was never lost on me. I'm not that person. My father was a minister. His father was a minister. So that's where I come from. But you heard my brother's music. You know, they, you know, when it comes time to be real, we can be real. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, so Craig talked to me about it. I was like, yeah, man. And my fiance at the time, my little boy's mom, I talked to her about it, and she was like, yeah, absolutely. Because I didn't want to. Because, you know, when you're talking about STDs and STD awareness and stuff like that, people get kind of weird about that.
Yeah, for sure. Especially at that time.
Yeah, and I'm more educated. I dealt with the CDC and the doctors. Like, I was in the meetings. So that's the story I'm telling you. So back to your question. So what happened was they sat me in a room and they were talking to me. They were explaining what they were trying to do with the campaign. And they were like, yo, we just can't crack this nut. We can't get into this community the way we like. We know the zip codes where the new cases are coming from. We know, you know, this, that, and the third. And so I was like, hey, why not create like a multifaceted campaign? Like, what's your budget? They're like, oh, we have 6-figure budget, you know, send it there. I was like, why not make a multifaceted campaign where you're making different kinds of impressions? Because it might take 6 to 8 impressions for someone to even notice what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay. Much less to take action. You know what I mean? Yeah. So how do the messages look? How do you want to use me? You know, take a picture of me and blah, blah, blah. What do you want them to say? And then where do you want to put them? You know what I mean? Are they just going to be on the radio? Because there's a ton of people that don't listen to radio. Yeah. And then there's a ton of people that when it comes to commercials, they just turn it off. Yeah. Right? So, for sure. But, you know, you might catch one if you listen every day. You might catch, oh, yeah, I heard that, you know. But then if you open a magazine, you see it, oh, maybe that sounds familiar. And then if you see it on a billboard, you're like, oh, man, is that the same thing I saw? That looks, the color scheme reminds me of something. I don't know what it is. And then, you know, you see a bus stop bench, and then, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you see, that's how we kind of piece it all together. So because I knew this and I was telling them this, they were like, yo, can we just talk to you? Because they remember Craig was the guy that brought him. He was like, can we just talk to you? And Craig, it was Craig's blessing, because Craig is a sales dude, you know what I mean? But sales is slightly different from marketing. I was a marketing dude, right? For sure. And they had already been sold. Now, how do we market their message? So Craig was like, with his blessing, he was like, yeah, go ahead and work with Ramses. And then what they did was they were like, and I told them, I was like, well, these are my qualifications. This is why I can say these things to you. You know what I mean? And this is because I've been educated in this way, so much so that I have degrees. And here's my degrees if you want to trust what I'm saying. Dope. So when I said that, they said, they took it back and they're like, could you do me a favor? We're going to get ASMR right now. Can you create an LLC and we will retain the services of your LLC, and we will make you our ad agency, and you can do our media buys for us, and you can put together the campaign, right? So we'll write you a check, a 6-figure check, and then you can pay the ad agencies less your 15%, plus you can pay yourself the talent fee since you'll appear in the ads, right? So it's like me taking this hand and washing this hand, but it was because I had that degree. So I took the pic. I paid the photographer. I had a friend who was a photographer, so I paid her to shoot me. I'd conceived the campaign with the health department and the CDC. So we had one called Get Added, where you were supposed to, there was like a list or a compilation of people who were like safe and checked and clean. And then there was another one that was, it was a push to download their app. And the app had ways that you could like share information. Like, let's say you contracted a disease, or you could send it out to your partners without the be an embarrassment, so they won't know it's you. Or they had all kind of neat little things. I wasn't really involved with that. Actually, I sent that business to my older brother in Vegas. Shout out Sean Taylor.
Okay.
But yeah, so but I wasn't involved with that. But anyway, they needed to market it. So yeah, I was like, okay, let me book the photographer. Let me conceive of the campaign. I got to pay myself as an agency. I have to pay myself as talent. I got to pay anybody else that appears. So I paid Lady La. I paid Felicia. That girl fell. Anish did a campaign with me, because Anish is he's a big name in the LGBTQIA plus community. And same with Felicia, and on and on. You get what I'm saying? So I just tapped on the homies, the people that I knew that had that skill set, and then I used Owens Harkey. Shout out to Scott Harkey. It's that big building downtown with the OH on it, if you're in Phoenix. So I'm really proud of Scott. But I tapped him. He got me the billboard inventory, and then boom, they manufactured everything, and they threw up all the billboards, and we had the full media run. I worked with Expose magazine. I worked with Echo magazine. I worked with what's that other one? There was a few magazines that I worked with, and so and then I had a 10-year deal with them, so it's still technically active. So the only thing they wanted me to also be able to do speaking engagements, and they wanted me to make sure that I got tested 3 times a year. I still go 4 times, just to make sure I don't lose my standing with them, because if they call on me and they're like, hey, we got another check for you, let's put together another campaign. We can do it. But obviously that budget kind of dwindled off a bit. Some people left, and then the pandemic hit. So but I'm keeping keeping information. But anyway, that's one way that having a master's degree
there
helped,
you go.
because when you're in a room with doctors,
worked great to your favor.
That's
so fantastic, dude. So, that is crazy.
So they treat, even though it was just me, it was just me. There was no building, there was no office, nothing. It was just Ramses. I created an LLC for like $200. I paid my lawyer. Shout out Amy Owen. Paid my lawyer to set up the LLC for me. And then had a tax ID number, a DUNS number, set up a bank account, all this sort of stuff. And they would write checks, and they would send the checks to the bank, or they would wire it, and it would clear. And then I would go to Scott, and Scott would get the inventory. I'd go to production. My sister, she's a graphic designer. She has a company called White Space, so I'd write checks to her to do the graphic design. Matt Locks is a photographer, so I use Matt on a bunch of stuff. On and on and on. So anyway, so, and it was just me. It just
you were the business. You were the LLC.
I'm not a businessman. I'm a
business man. Yes, yes. That's I love that. I love that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I don't know if you follow Earn Your Leisure.
I'm not sure.
There are a couple of guys that they talk about. They have a podcast on basically financial education.
Okay.
They do like every Monday they do talk about investing and LLCs, and so when you have a story like that, because I'm really big into that.
Yeah.
I love it. Like, it's like,
oh man, I
get
wish.
The LLC, like, I mean, it's crazy.
I wish I knew about that, man. This whole thing, I just made it up as I went, man. Nobody was really telling me. I mean, we learned from each other, like I said, me and my friends, but
right.
I didn't really have like somebody to tell me something like that. I just was like, I think knowing the right people, or having the right opportunities and being creative enough to exploit them to the degree that made the most sense, and then of course involving your team. And these are all people that have a really strong work ethic, because Kevin doesn't need Ramses to be Kevin. Gio doesn't need Ramses to be Gio. D'Angelo doesn't need Ramses to be D'Angelo. So by themselves, they're all like tremendous workers, you know. My man Q just purchased Hip Hop Weekly magazine, as I mentioned, and so I don't even know if I should say that yet. He'd probably get mad at me. But anyway,
we could delete that.
He'll just be mad. He gets mad at me all the time. I'll be saying all kind of stuff. But anyway, he doesn't need me to do what he does. You know what I mean? And so I think that there's something to be said about people that can like move on their own and stand on their own, being able to trust their work ethic, that they'll be there. And so when you call on them, that they know what it means to be responsible. And I don't know anybody that I can call on that wouldn't really be there, for me if I need.
That's dope. Okay. So going back to 101.1, You obviously had the transition going through the recession, and then you ended up on 101.1, correct?
Yeah.
And you were there for quite a while.
Yeah, 12 years total. Yeah.
Yeah, talk to us about that, and then obviously what ended up happening as when you left and started the CIVIC CIPHER.
Sure. So the time I was there, when I first got there, was a program director named Bo Duran, and the dude that really convinced me to go over there was a dude named Augustine. Augie went to school with me and Gio at Central High School in D'Angelo.
Dope.
At Central High School. So I knew Augie. And Augie was like, hey, man, just being real. He was like, hey, man, I remember it's a recession. I just got let go from Power. I didn't have a job, have no money. I was trying to figure out what's the next step. So he's like, hey, I could hire you over here to do promotions, but it's not what you're used to. It's not Power at all. It's a much smaller station, and this place doesn't have any money. And I was like, it's a job in radio. If I'm in the door, I can make opportunities happen.
Right.
And he was like, I just need you to know. He said this to me just like this. He's like, this is not a good place to work. Yeah, he said that. But he was talking about like financially. Like they're just a really fiscally tight. They have tight purse strings there. So they, as a philosophy, as a rule, according to him at that time.
Okay.
So I was like, shoot, man, I don't care what it is. If it's hip hop and it's radio, I'll take it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Augie hired me over there. I immediately went to Bo Duran, the program director's office, and I says, hey, I'm trying to be the music director here. I was like, this is who I am. This is what I did. And I need you to train me how to be the music director, but I'm willing to work to show you that I have the capability of doing that job. Because I wanted to grow in my career so that it would be harder to fire me moving forward. Because getting let go from Power, that was traumatic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was losing my house. It was traumatic. I did lose that house. So I was like, let me make sure I don't go through that again. So Bo was like, yeah, cool. You know what? We don't really have a staff here, so why don't we start you off with something small? He's like, why don't we make you the weekend coordinator? I was like, well, I don't even know what that means, but sure, let's do it.
Okay.
It didn't come with no money, but he's like, basically, why don't you find me some weekend shows to put on the radio? So I was like, bet, right? What I did was I hit up DJ Flavor.
Okay.
DJ Flavor used to roll with this crew called Bum Squad DJs. M2, if you listen to M2's drops over the years, he'd be like, M2, the Bum Squad.
Yep.
That Bum Squad drop. So again, a big national DJ crew. And because that name was big and because I knew Flavor, I was like, shoot, I could probably parlay Flavor into giving me a slot as a Bum Squad DJ. And that's another thing I didn't mention yet.
Okay.
So as soon as I got let go from Power in 2008, they gave me a severance pay. I lived in Maricopa at the time. That severance pay, what it was probably like $2,500, right? So I could pay my mortgage maybe twice and had a little bit of bread left over. Back in the day, 12s, Technics 1200s turntables, for those who don't know, with the tone arm like this, if you're watching, 12s used to be mad cheap. You can get, a pair of them for $200, you know what I'm saying? So what I did was, Mad Rich has showed me that it was possible for me to learn how to be a DJ. I'm thinking like, okay, I live in Maricopa, and we used to bring the Power van down to Maricopa sometimes, me and Rich.
Okay.
So the kids in Maricopa knew that at that house at the end, that guy works for Power 92.
Okay. Yeah.
So, or Power 98. So I was like, shoot, if I get some turntables, I can probably DJ some parties in Maricopa and make some money and supplement my unemployment income, right?
Okay.
So that was the plan. So I bought some turntables immediately with that service on eBay, bought them, right? So I had these turntables at the crib. All right, fast forward. Now Augie's looking at me. He's like, yo, man, I could hire you here, but, ain't really, whatever. So I'm like, I'll take it, Plus, I got some turntables. He didn't know how long I've been DJing. It had been like 2 or 3 weeks. Oh, shit. But I was like, whatever, man.
Right.
But you just fake it. And then my brain was like, yo, I'm going to just learn it. You know what I mean? I'm going to just learn it.
I'll get there.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
And then I had, like I said, I had the right people, because Rich, I'll never be able to thank Mad Rich enough. It's a lot of people, Yasmina, Q Ward, it's a lot of people I taught how to DJ, and I'm a part of their story forever. For me, it's Mad Rich. As far as being a DJ is concerned, Rich, like, he loved me, So anyway, so boom, I get the position there. I talked to Bo. Bo says do the weekend stuff, I hit up DJ Flavor. Now remember, I'm just starting out as a DJ, so I don't have the respect of the DJ community yet.
Right.
So I'm like, well, shoot, if I'm a Bum Squad DJ, I might get a little bit more respect, and maybe people will throw me opportunities, or maybe that'll help me grow my brand. If I get fired again, I could probably lean on that. So that's why I needed to make Ramses' job matter instead of making the radio station matter, because they could just fire you. You know what I'm saying? You don't really matter to them.
Yeah.
Turns out you do if you work long enough and you do a good enough job. But at the time, I was thinking I didn't matter. Excuse me. So boom, I'm in there. I'm like, Flavor on the phone. Flavor, hey man, look, you want to put together a Bum Squad radio show? I talked to Slippy. I talked to Don Cannon out of Atlanta. You know, DJ Drama and Cannon. I met him at the Shaw Money's beat conference.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I had some people around the industry that I can get some programming from.
Okay.
But here locally, it was Flavor, and I was like, yo man, I could do a Bum Squad radio show if you want. We can put it on the beat. It's like a classic hip hop station. But if you got some bums that want to submit mixes, you know, we can get you 4 hours a week on the radio if you want.
Okay.
He was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? I was like, it's just one caveat. Can you do me a big favor? He's like, what's that? I was like, can you talk to LP? LP is Latin Prince. He was the dude that ran the whole fraternity. I was like, can you talk to LP for me? Tell him I want to be a bum. Right? And I was like, and one more favor. See if he can make Squeak a bum too. Squeak Boogie, you know, that's my guy.
Dope.
And he was like, all right, I'll see what I can do. And then I think it was like 48 hours, they put out a press release or something and said, we would like to, there was like a special election or special whatever, because they do it once a year. So it's like a special thing. It's like, we'd like to admit the two newest bums from Phoenix, Arizona, Ramses John,
Fire.
right?
Nice.
So because Bo let me, because I went and I had the audacity to say, I want to be your next program director. He never met me before I got hired and walked right to his office the same day. It was like in the same minute.
That's crazy.
Right? Because again, I knew what I was on. So boom, right after that, I'm trying to become valuable as a DJ. Kevin had moved to Vegas. Bootleg Kev had moved to Vegas. So I was talking to Kev. I was like, yo, I got to get to Vegas. I got to get a residency out there. I got to do something. And Kev's homie was living with him named DJ Sam I Am. Sam was from Idaho, but he was living in Vegas at Kev's house. Okay. So I would go up there, and me and Sam would just basically go knock on doors at clubs in the daytime, be like, yo, we DJ. I put together a nice leather bound, you know, EPK with a CD and a thumb drive and a one sheet with a picture and, you know, all of that stuff. And it was, even if you didn't want to hire me, you would still keep the folder, right? It was like $30 to put one of these together.
Yeah.
But I spent like $600-800 and put together a number of them and just left them out.
Essential.
Right.
Yep.
And so Sam ended up getting a spot at a place called Koi in Vegas. So he was a resident at Koi. And because Sam's connections, he was like, yo, just come open for me. So I would just go to Koi and open for Sam, right? So it wasn't like a big gig. It was on Sundays, you know what I mean? But it was on the Vegas Strip.
I was going to say, it's still Vegas.
Man, exactly. And I'm newish as a DJ still.
Right.
So everybody in Phoenix had to look at that and be like, dang, this fool was a DJ and he's DJing in Vegas?
Right.
Meanwhile, I hit up there's a dude named Kitoy used to have a magazine called, what's that magazine called? AZ Nightlife. Right?
Okay, yep. I remember.
And AZ Nightlife, this is how hood I am. AZ Nightlife used to have this thing where you could vote for who should be on the cover, right? Mm-hmm. So,
I remember that.
Yeah, so I submitted, and what I did was I would go every day. I would wake up early, and I would go and vote for myself from GCC, and I would go to Wi-Fi at this hotel, and I would of course vote for my house, and I would vote for my phone, and I would and of course I had all the homies voting for me, so I whoever the next winner was, I blew him out of the water. So I won, right? By far. I was mad cheating. He knew it too.
Yeah, you had to.
He knew it. Hey, matter of fact,
ain't nothing wrong with
I
it.
cheated twice, and he caught me the first time. He's like, man, you can't do that. I can't sell them numbers. And then I was like, I'll cheat better next time. He was like, ha ha ha, and I did, and then I won. So boom, now I'm on that first. It was 2 months, but now I'm on this magazine, this first magazine cover, and what I do, I had a shirt, because when you become a Bum Squad DJ, they give you a shirt. So I had a shirt, and it said Bum Squad on the shirt, right? So now I'm there. That same girl I mentioned earlier, Sonia, she was there with me. When he put her on both sides, he photoshopped her in there twice on a magazine cover. So now everybody sees I'm in Vegas on the weekend, because now it's, Twitter and TwitPics and whatever is a little bit bigger. And then I'm a Bum Squad DJ, and I'm on the cover of a magazine, and I'm at the beat. You know what I mean? So like my rebound from getting let go from Power was like
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. It was.
No,
that's a good word. It was, because I was not taking that lying down. And then of course, like I said, with the magazine stuff, it was like just a matter of rinse, repeat. The next, what happened was probably like maybe a month or two after that, I went into not Fort McDowell, but Fort McDowell Casino. Mm-hmm. They wanted me to do this thing called late night bingo. Lunar bingo is what it's called.
Okay.
So Lunar Bingo, it was Ruben S. You guys remember Crazy Kid and Ruben S.
Mm-hmm.
The morning show?
I do.
So Ruben S. had come over to the beat by now, and I was there, and they were like, "Yo, can you two host and DJ?" Because they didn't have any DJ. I was the only DJ at the beat. There was such a small staff.
Right.
So they're like, "Do you think you can DJ this night at Lunar Bingo?" So I was like, "Yeah, man, let's do it." You know, it was $600 or whatever a month or whatever. So I'll take it. So me and Ruben are doing this thing. One day I went to go get a pizza from Papa John's. I went into pizza and they had this magazine there called AZ Nightlife, right? And I'm from LA, AZ Weekly. So I remember LA Weekly. So in my brain, it's the same thing.
Right.
And then I see on the cover of AZ Weekly, it's the Harlem Globetrotters. And I was like, the Harlem Globetrotters on the cover of AZ Weekly? They're not even from AZ. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I started thinking, like, how in the world did they get on the cover of this? You know what I'm saying? The Nightlife thing being on the cover of that magazine, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But this, how does that happen?
Right.
So what I did is I called the owner of the magazine.
Okay.
You just found out who it was, Google, whatever. Mm-hmm. I was like, yo, so how did they end up on the cover? Because that doesn't really seem like the biggest thing going on in Arizona. Yeah.
Right.
And he said, well, you know, we actually do advertising deals. And if you spend enough money in advertising, you have an option to put whatever you want on the cover as well. Okay. So it's not like we sell the cover, but if you do a big enough media buy with us, then we have a vested interest in the success of your event. And I was like, well, as it turns out, I do an event called Lunar Bingo at Fort McDowell Casino, right? So I was like, so tell me about the pricing and whatever. What do you need in order to have this conversation? And they told me, I forgot what it was. It was many years ago. That magazine, I think it's gone now, but I think his name was Brian Muir. Okay. So Brian told me, this is crazy. I'm remembering names because I don't remember anything. Okay. Ever. But I don't ask anybody. But so he told me that, and then I took it back to our salesperson who handled the Fort McDowell account, and she talked to them about, remember that multifaceted campaign stuff that I was talking about? Like, hey man, not everybody's gonna listen to the radio. If you really want people to come out and have it be successful for a long period of time, we should probably consider, some other mediums. Avenues, yeah. And with this company, we can do this, and then we get the presence of making it seem like it's a much bigger event than it actually is by being on the cover, right? Akin to what the Globetrotters have done. Exactly. And so somehow I said it in such a way to where they loved the idea. They put together whatever the money was, and then they bought it because it was an idea I had in my head that I said in my mouth. And then maybe like 1 or 2 months later, we're in the office downstairs in the conference room. Matlock's is shooting me and Ruben S. We're holding like records and doing all this cool stuff. And then I took that to White Space. My little sister, she photoshopped it all, and then boom, you have this magazine cover where I think they printed like 100,000 of those, and so they're everywhere all over the city. Dope. And my face is on the cover. So now I'm like maybe a year away from being at Power, and I'm on 2 magazine covers. I'm a bum. I'm in Vegas on the Strip. You know what I'm saying? And then after that, TV came into play. So I forgot what the question was, man. I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm like reliving all this stuff.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying, so you're at 101, one. Yeah. And now, so that first year was crazy, obviously, and then you enjoyed another 11 years there. Yeah. And then things changed. Yeah. From the outside looking in, it was probably something that was brewing, and you can speak to that. And I know you've spoken about it. But it was like Ramses was here. Ramses ain't here no more.
Yeah. So basically what happened was When I was in college, I was the president of the NAACP Black Student Union.
Okay.
As I mentioned, my father was a minister, a black minister, as was his father. You know what I mean? Obviously, my life has been very much shaped by the experiences that come along with being a black person.
For sure.
And so when you have a degree of mobility in society, there's some responsibility that comes with that. You know,
for sure.
As you can probably imagine, you know what I mean? Or just imagine, you know, if you're not black having this same experience, just imagine whoever you are, and maybe not everybody gets to do what it is you do. And so you have to like bear that in mind as you move, because I don't believe that the purpose is for Ramses to live for Ramses alone. I think that Ramses has to serve, you know, you too. Ramses has to serve, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in doing so, you might be God. And at the end of my life, I want to make sure that I did right by you. You understand?
I understand.
So
for sure.
I try to kind of hold that central to the way that I approach things. Anyway, so yeah, man. As far as the radio station, you know, I had been there for a very long time. I had a great relationship with everybody, but in 2020, so just prior to this, I had left the country. I'd been gone from that radio station for maybe 2 years. So it's really like 10 if you put it all together.
Right.
But across 12 years, right? But I'd taken some time to travel. I did a world tour as a DJ and all that sort of stuff. So I get back, I have some money, have an opportunity to purchase some nightclubs. Mm-hmm. So I bought out one of the partners downtown at Monarch and Bar Smith. Shout out to Sinbad, that's my brother right there. So I get to say his name. And Robbie, I love you too, dog.
And shout out to your recent win at the AZT Awards too.
Oh, thank you, brother.
You know what I mean? That was dope.
That's where we kind of set this meeting up. Yeah. So anyway, oh shoot, shout out Dallas too. I love you too, man. I'm gonna forget everybody.
I get it.
Yeah, man. So anyway, so yeah. Now I'm like, okay, my friends work in radio, but I have my own businesses.
Right.
You know, because the nightclubs was just one investment I made. But I ended up going back to the beat on a part-time capacity. And what was really dope is the new GM, the old GM loved me, and the new GM loved me too. I wish that things didn't go the way that they did, because he said, I believe him to be a really good man. I believe all of them to be good men. Okay. I wrote that in my resignation. But anyway.
Yeah.
You know, he pulls me in his office. He's like, hey, man, you know, you're the most clicked person on our website and you're only here part-time. You know, can you explain that to me? Like, what's going on? He's like, the next most clicked person is like I think the morning show or something like that. And you're here. You haven't even been full-time in 4 years or something like that. How is it that you have such a name that resonates? And how do we teach our other jocks? You know, how do we get them some star power, right? And remember, we're all on the same team at this time, so I'm happy to share and give any advice or whatever. But you know, I'm like a hustler. You know, my crew is hustlers. You know what I'm saying? We just be thinking like, how can I make this bigger and better? So some of it's natural, but some of it is like, okay, I done read this play before, so I know how they gonna move, or I've seen this movie. You know what I'm saying? So I can get some game.
For sure.
So they would lean on me for stuff like that here and there. But what they also did was they kind of put it in my head that I was kind of growing in terms of I'm not like the rest of y'all.
Right.
I'm like the OG now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And fortunately, I think I function really well in an OG capacity because I be showing love to people. If you're trying to learn something, I can give you some game. Let me give you some game. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be fine. My babies is going to eat, so let me make sure you can feed yours. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you got to take care of your family, whatever, let me make sure I give you this game, right? And you can ask anybody, I do that as much as I can.
Yeah.
If you come to me the right way and I got time, because I try to avoid people because I know me well enough to know that I'll pour all my energy into some stranger and then they win and I'm like exhausted at the end of it.
Right.
Anyway, sorry I be taking so long to take this I just don't want people to use these words against me. Like, you said on the podcast.
Yeah. When you talk about me.
Yeah. You know, like going 130 miles on the freeway. Anyway.
Oh, man.
Anyway, that's an inside joke because I was going that fast trying to get here.
Yeah, man.
A little late today.
130.
135 actually. I had to slow down. Anyway, so yeah. So yeah, man, we had a good working relationship. I was helping everybody out, but I really started to understand that I was the OG. I kind of had the game figured out, and I was in a position where I could teach not just the people that were on the radio, but even the leadership, the general managers, all those people, because they were asking me like, yo, so how do we get some of that? How do we make the station feel relatable to listers? But they were calling me into these meetings, and I'm like, shoot, man, well, this is what I would do, and give them some game. So that happened just before the pandemic.
Right.
And then when the pandemic hit, everybody had to go home, right? Especially when it came to part-timers. And I was part-time, but I didn't care because as long as I'm in the building or have a relationship with a radio station, I'm fine. I'm filled up with radio. So I just want to keep relationships with my friend. And it's fun to go and talk on radio, get a couple things off of your thoughts, and then go back home. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, but then George Floyd got killed, and we all saw that. And, I saw Kaepernick, I saw Trayvon, I saw, even before Trayvon, for a lot of people don't remember, but there was a lot of police shootings, and Trayvon was when people said enough is enough. So we had already been hurt, and then Trayvon.
Right.
And then hurt. And for, you know what I'm saying? You know all the names, right?
For sure.
So by the time George Floyd came about, and I'm like, dang, that's heavy. So boom, what I do, I get my babies and we go get to the streets. You know what I'm saying? I have 2 sons. I have my boys out there, and my little boy, he made a sign. I'm so proud of him, man. He wrote his own sign. He was real little at the time, so it's all gibberish looking.
Right.
But he held that sign up and he walked with me. He still talks about it right now. And my bigger boy, he was this huge afro. You know what I'm saying? It was beautiful.
Dope.
And we was out there and we was marching and affirming our humanity in front of the world. And you know what was ill is when we were out there, it wasn't black people out there. It was some black people, but it's not enough black people in Arizona. Everybody was out there.
Yeah.
Everybody was out there.
Yeah.
So when we was out there, we was like, yo, this is special. This is different. You know what I'm saying? And, and we, like, shout out to the White Paws. Shout out to the people that didn't need to be there. People, Sikh people, Asian people that didn't need to be there. It's not their fight, but they made it their fight. Yeah. And they were protecting me, and they were protecting my children. Shout out to BLM Phoenix Metro. Shout out to Zara. People that like had the game and they knew what they was gonna do. No, today we're gonna mess things up. So we're gonna walk to right here, and then you go home, and you take them boys home with you. Okay. Yeah. Don't be here for that. You know what I'm saying? People that really looked out for me. Keisha. Shout out to all y'all. So yeah. I'm out there. And before I ended up meeting all of them, the BLM PHX Metro group, some folks came up to me and they was like, Ramses Ja, like how they do. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And they're like, dang, it's so good to see you out here. I'm like, yeah, man, I wouldn't miss this. This is right up my alley, but people don't know it. Because over the years, even at the beat, I would be like, hey, look, I'm going to come in late because I got to go speak at the MLK Youth Celebration, or I got to go to the HBCU College Fair. I got an appointment where I got to do something with the Urban League, or I got to, whatever. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Whatever I had to do. And they all knew that. They knew what I was about. Dr. Camilla Westenberg, shout out to her. She's my mentor from college, but she's also like a dear, dear, dear friend of mine. Okay. And she's the woman that tells me basically what to do. Okay. Of all things black, she tells me what to do. Okay. Ramses, I need you to be here at this time, wear a tuxedo, and you're going to walk with me up the stairs, and she's a professor, so. Yeah. She's old with gray hair, but she's like, my mom left, so she's like a mother figure. Yeah, like that. For sure. So I just do whatever she says, but they knew I was tight with her. So yeah, and they knew this. This is why it's still sad to tell this story, man, because you don't want to, I get that people make mistakes, but also I got to be black forever, and my son's got to look at me forever. So I had to do what I had to do, and I don't think anybody will hold that against me. But you need to know this backstory so you understand the emotional gravity of what took place and how difficult it was to do it. So I'm on the street, people are like, Ramses, what are you doing out here? Hey, man, I had to be here. Dang, man, so do you get to talk about this on the radio? Well, you can do more than us, so what are you going to do? That's a great point. And remember, I'm not at the radio station at the time, but I'm like, you're not wrong. So I start thinking, and I'm seeing what's happening on the streets too. And I'm seeing they got the bullhorns, and they'll say something in the bullhorn, and then the crowd will echo it back. Right. But then the crowd behind them, because remember, it was thousands of people. Yeah. It was 20 people organizing it. 4,000 protesters with 20 people organizing it. And police everywhere. Right? Waiting for somebody to do something stupid. So I'm like, I don't know if the message is getting through this crowd the way it should, A.
Right.
B, when you go home and you listen to the news and whatever, you know what I'm saying? Oh, they out here doing this, they rioting, they breaking stuff. You know,
exactly.
And I'm like, yo, I didn't see that. If it was like that, my children would not be here.
Right.
So you're lying.
Right.
And I don't like that. That's disrespectful. Don't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. My brother has a line in one of his songs. It's called Proper Propaganda. Look up Dilated People's Proper Propaganda. That's like one of the theme songs of my show, Civic Cypher. It has a bar in there that says, journalists, we're journalists too. We can strike back. And he says, hardcore reporters with orders from headquarters behind enemy lines, sidestepping the borders. And I'm like, that's some bars for you, because that's really what I felt in that moment. Okay, you talking on TV. Well, shoot, man, I don't got a TV station, but I do got a radio station. I'm gonna tell the truth, right? So what I do, I go to Paul Holton, and I says, hey, Paul, people out here tripping. This is a hip hop station. This is the cultural watering hole of black people in Arizona. There's no churches like that. There's no HBCUs, historically black colleges here for young people. There's no place. This is the beacon. This is where black culture exists.
Right.
So we can do something with this moment, because we can make friends out of these angry people, or we can make enemies out of these angry people.
Right.
And I'm here to tell you how to do this, because I hadn't seen it, right? So I talked to my man. He was like, I love it. We absolutely should be out there. His credit, I'll give him his credit. He was like, I love it. Okay. He was like, hey, remember I told you I gotta say some things about this dude Fred Rico. So here it comes again. Okay. So he's like, basically, get with Fred, make it happen. So I get with Fred Rico, who's the program director of the radio station. Fred was like, yeah, man, let's put it together. Basically, I'm gonna give you the short version of the story. But basically, yeah, let's put it together. So I was like, cool, man, say way less. So I got enough bread to do it myself. I don't need y'all money. So boom, I get the Rodecaster, I get some mics. I'm real handy with the tools, like actual tools. So I, made myself a little studio in the crib. And then boom, I'm ready to record. So I hit him up. I'm ready to go. I got the guests lined up. And then the whole time protesting is still happening. So I'm telling people like, yo, I'm working on a show. Come up. You know what I'm saying? Let's exchange numbers. You know what I'm saying? Right. Janelle Wood from the Black Mothers Forum. Who else? Chicanos por la Casa. Poder in Action. You remember at the time it was like the Kids in Cages stuff was real big too. Yeah. Let's see. Shoot, I don't know. Rocky Tirade was doing his thing out there.
We just had Rocky on last week.
Yeah, shout out Rocky Tirade. Yeah. A lot of folks was out on the streets, and I was like, man, I'm about to put you on the radio instead of them bullhorns. We're gonna put you on the radio and make sure people really can hear what's going on. Because people were scared to come out there. People were like, oh, it's a riot. I don't want to go and support black people because they were scared. But that's because the media was doing that. I'm like, well, shoot, we're gonna do something. I talked to Fred. I'm like, yo, I told him the same thing I told Paul. We need to put a show on where we get them up here to say what it is that we want, to say when's the next thing, to say how to protect yourself, to say what to wear, to say what the risks really are.
Real information.
To do that. And then we need to have this conversation, right? And Fred was like, yeah, man, okay, so give me some time. So again, just back and forth. It's probably like a month and a half. And he kept telling me, yeah, we're going to get started on it. Give me like 1 more week. All I needed was a day and time of the week. And I needed, I think that was it, because I would have put everything else together. And finally, he was like, wait 1 more week, or here, I'll call you after the weekend. And finally hit me up, and he was like, he said them words to me. He's like, hey, man, listen, Ramses, I don't want to do a black show. He's like, we'll just keep running the PSA shows, you know what I mean? We'll just do that. I get what you're trying to do, man, and I understand, but I really don't want to do a black show. And I was so hurt by that all I could say was, okay, Fred. Okay, Fred. And Fred knows me well enough to know that everything that he says that I disagree with, he hears about it. Okay. I'll be like, Fred, that's wrong. I'm not going to accept that. That is unacceptable, Fred Rico. We're not going to do that. We're going to figure this out together. You know what I mean? Because that's how I've always been with him. Not disrespectful, because I never disrespect Fred, but he knows if I got something to say, I'll speak up. He always appreciated that. Right. Because Fred is a human. He's not right all the time. Nobody's right all the time. Neither am I. You know what I'm saying? So he would listen when I would speak up, but that time it was just so hurt, and just the arrogance in that moment for him to say, I'm not going to do a black show.
Right.
To a black man.
Right.
After the whole world saw a black man get crushed to death.
Exactly.
And you're at the helm of a black radio station that's 100% black music.
Yeah.
Might be 70% black artists, but 100% black music. I've said that before. And you get to decide that?
Right.
Okay, Fred. And when I said that, he heard it in my voice. I was like, okay, Fred.
That's it.
And he was like, I think that you can do this, or, that or the other. And I just was like, okay, Fred, man, it's all good, man. Don't worry about it. I hung up the phone. And I sat there for about 10 minutes. And in that moment, I knew what I had to do. So I mourned the loss of my career, this job that had, I'd seen the world. I had, had so much fun. I'd met stars, interviewed them. I had, you name it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything that wasn't drug related, I'd done it. I've never done a drug before. I've never drank alcohol before. So those aren't really my things. But, everything else, I've done it. I've had fun, and I had to leave it behind because above all else, I'm black. I'm a man. I'm a father. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And when your convictions catch up to you in a moment like that, the decision makes itself. So the only thing you can do is take a moment to mourn the loss. The finality of it is just like death.
Right.
So I sat there and I had my emotional moment to myself. And then I started typing what would ultimately become my resignation letter. And as I crafted it, I realized that the letter was more for people to hear, because all the people I had committed to interviewing, Janelle Woods and Bodega and all those guys,
right?
I wasn't going to be able to interview them no more, and I couldn't stay at the station. Like, it's not like, well, they said I couldn't do it no more, y'all, so I'm just still there, right? Because then I look like clown shoes, Uncle Tom, out for himself, black dude, right?
Right.
I got to stand with the people. The people is the one that gave me them ratings, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So. And plus I was kind of at a point in my life and in my career where it's like, me being on the radio another time isn't going to give me any new experiences, because I've been on the radio so many times. So I'm like, I had to make it make sense, but it was okay walking away. So I wrote that resignation, and instead of sending it to them, I called Bootleg, and I was like, Kevin, it's funny to call him Bootleg. His name is Kevin. Right. I called Kevin and I read it to him, and he was in Mexico at the time. So he was talking, and he could tell I was kind of like, in a really sad space, but he was like, dog, there's no way in the world you gonna write that and I'm gonna tell you not to post it. That people need to see that. Right. I was like, cool, I know, I just need to make sure. He was like, yeah, man, do it. Hung up the phone, posted it, and then I shared 1,000 times. So, the station got real embarrassed. That's why they're called The Bounce now, and they changed their call letters, because if you look up the beat, the first thing that come up was long-time radio personality quits amid racist, blah, 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 which I never said anybody was racist. I never said nothing like that. I didn't use that word, but and I maintain that they're good men. But you know how easy it is when you're in that corporate culture where it's like Fred could be like, well, I couldn't do it because this guy, and I couldn't do it because of that guy. They all knew what I was trying to do. All the owner, the general manager, and the program director, they all knew what I was trying to do. And if they put it on the program director to represent the interest of the corporation and the radio station, then that is the name of the game. That is the nature of the beast. And so I could not allow anybody to snake their way out of this. I needed to hold the station accountable, and those three men represented the station, and they don't get to decide by themselves what happens to the culture that is inherited by my children. Yeah. It just doesn't get to happen. Not without me saying anything. And when I put that down, I stood by it and I walked away. And it wasn't until after that everybody came and says, whatever you were trying to do over there, will you please come do it over here? I got you. Exactly. Yeah. And so that's how come I'm on in Vermont, in Oregon, and California, Texas, and all over the place. All over, man. Yeah. So it ended up, and then of course, you live and you learn, and they run a show, I think it's called Community Circle or something like that, with Jackie Morales. Shout out to Jackie. I love her. Yeah, shout out to Jackie. She's a sweetheart. And she's the person with the right temperament. She's a good person with good energy. And I feel like the world needs a little bit more of that. And so her doing that show, which was born out of me resigning in protest, I think they won because they ended up having to kind of do right by the people.
Right.
And I think that the people won because now CIVIC CIPHER exists. I didn't have a name for it at the time. I wasn't thinking it was going to be a thing.
Right.
I thought I was going to do it on one station for 30 minutes in the middle of the night.
Right.
I had no idea. And of course I wanted to do it there, but I think it just shows, like I did a deal with iHeart last year and they were like, what you're doing over there, we need some of that. Yeah. And iHeart, for those that don't know, iHeart owns half the radio stations in the country.
Yeah.
It's the biggest media company on earth.
It is.
For them to come, the vice president of iHeart reached out to me. It was like, hey,
dope.
He called my phone. This one right here. He called my phone. He was like, hey, man, heard about the show you're doing. Actually listened to it. It's really good. Can we talk about this? I think we need to discuss your talents. Like, man, let's change the world together, brother.
Yeah.
Shout out Tony Coles, man. He's a good dude too. So.
And if you want to watch it too, it's on YouTube as well, right?
Yeah. Don't clown me. I'm a radio guy, so I need to do better with my visuals, but I do make it available. The point of the show is to make sure that if you wanted to hear a little bit more about the conversation or find out what it must feel like, I think that feeling each other, I've been told that I can convey feeling pretty well, and so I try to put a lot of that in there, and then instruction on how to become a better ally. I call it a black show for non-black people because there's a lot of black shows for black people, but in a way, like I don't go and look for like Dutch programming because I'm not a Dutch person, so I don't think that non-black people look for black programming because they're not black, right? But I have to make a black show to empower allies of black and brown people. You can't name a radio station in a country where black people are the majority of listeners because we're the minority in the country. So in every city, we're less than half. So the idea is that black people, we know our problems, we live them, but other people don't. So I try to make it breathe, try to create stronger allies, and I try to give a little bit more feeling behind the message. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, everybody saw a man die, but what does it feel like to see a man die and know that the reason that he died is because, me putting it generously is like, oh, the police were afraid of him, and me being a little bit more realistic is like the police hate him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how does it feel to live in a world where that could potentially be a reality? A lot of people make a big deal out of black on black crime, which is silly, but if there's black on black crime, if you want to call it that, don't call it that around me. There's at least a potential for accountability. It's not insulting. It doesn't devalue your experience as a human being. It doesn't mean my life is worthless. But if a police officer crushes you to death on camera in full view of the world, there's a debate as to whether or not he was wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's a serious debate, and we've seen sometimes people walk free, sometimes they don't. You know what I mean? And the point of my show was to kind of bring a little bit of humanity into spaces where people might not consider it. They'd be like, man, I love, the Migos, and I love, Lil Baby, and I love, you know what I'm saying?
Lil Baby.
All that, you know what I'm saying? But then they're like, shoot, man, I didn't really know that, what it feels like to be on the other side of the verdict of, a Kim Potter who, took the life of Dante Wright. Saying taser, taser, taser. Okay, it's an accident. Okay, so she only gets 2 years. Okay, but if I kill somebody on accident, they're going to give me more, right? Oh, it's not even 2 years because it's only 1.5 years because of whatever,
Right.
Okay, so what was his life worth?
Right.
Okay, how does it feel to know, my sons, they don't look too dissimilar from Dante. My son is 16, so he's not too far away from 24.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? How does it feel to be the parent of a child with a huge afro who walks around like that and might intimidate an officer who, people are allowed to get scared. Animals are allowed to get scared. You know what I'm saying? If you feel like there's a threat, and what do you do when you're scared? You fight or you flight, right?
Right.
This is a natural response.
Exactly.
It's not like people are inventing new ways to harm police. You know what I'm saying? Or just do what they say. No, man, it's a natural impulse, especially if you are black and oppressed and you feel like, well, if I run, I might live. If I stay here, they're going to hurt me or going to kill me. You know what I'm saying? You would do the same thing, but people who aren't black don't ask themselves that question.
They don't.
So I try to, again, create stronger allies. People are like, yeah, man, I stand with black people, but black people need to do this. You don't know what that's like, so let me help you out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I try not to have too much anger on the show. Thank you for letting me ramble about it, man. But
it's
sure. Obviously something I'm really passionate about, and I'm not going to live forever, man. I hope some of the ideas that I discuss do. I hope my babies live forever, but you know what I'm saying? with the time I have, man, I'm gonna try to. I didn't have fun, man. I'm gonna try to do something that matters too.
Yes, sir.
I'll still be having fun though. So
it's a great show, and I know I'm in the minority in the sense of watching, because I love watching.
Thank you.
And I like watching over listening, anyways. But even our show, we have way more listeners than we do people who watch the show. Yeah. But I'm just one of those rare occasions where I don't know what it is, man. I like to see expressions, facial expressions, even if it's pan, dead face, nothing.
It helps.
Like, I don't know what it is.
It brings
man.
you in a room.
Yeah. For me, it's like me sitting in the room with them.
Sure.
You know, and
I know that
I do. That's why I really wanted to shout out the YouTube channel. Because if you are like me, go check it out, because it's a fantastic show. And if not, go check it on the radio if you're one of those.
Yeah, you can check it on the radio. It's a podcast as well. Yeah. On the YouTube, fortunately, YouTube, I managed to get a hold of somebody there that gave me the domain, even though I didn't have a lot of subscribers or whatever. They gave me the domain YouTube/CIVIC CIPHER, CIVIC So it's really easy to find if you want to look for it. And then all our episodes are there. I don't pump the channel. It's probably the first time I ever said that out loud, but just.
Well, I'll pump it for you, dude, because it's a great channel, and I think people need to go check it out. Man.
I got some good things in the works with iHeart too, so hopefully we'll be able to blow up the message in a visual space as well. May not be YouTube, it may be something more traditional, television based, but they really like the look of the show and the authenticity. I'm not the best speaker in the world or anything like that, but I'll be saying what I feel, and I think that's really what matters.
Yes, sir.
To them. So,
I have one more question for you.
Of course.
And that's about your name, Ramses Ja.
Because
it sounds to me like Egyptian.
Yeah, it is.
It is. Is that where it's derived from? Mm-hmm. Okay, because obviously Ramses is a pharaoh.
Sure. Yeah.
Ja, I'm not sure where that comes from, but I know Ra is the sun god.
Yeah.
So
my name means the son of the god of the sun.
No, dude, I love it. I love it. I meant to ask at the very top, man, and it just we kind of got going, and I was like, man, I gotta ask about his name because I'm super into
Egyptology.
I love Egypt stuff, man. I get sucked into wormholes at least once a week.
It's fascinating.
It is mind blowing.
Yeah, man.
And I could talk about it for hours, which I won't go down. But
I'm all Egyptian tatted up. But no,
I know. I was looking. I've been looking at your tattoos during the interview. Trying to keep eye contact with them and going like, I wonder if those symbols mean some certain
these
things.
Symbols come from the tomb of the person I was named after. So,
okay.
But yeah, my dad. Shout out Dr. Rudolph Wayne Taylor. Rest in peace. My dad. He was real big on names, and he gave me a name that I hope I live up to, the son of the god of the sun. So yeah.
Yeah, that's all. I love it, man. I love the name, man. And I think that too kind of speaks to also your personality. Like you embody that Ramses Ja. You know what I'm saying? So it like.
Thank you.
Yeah, it has like this, and I think I bet you if they did a study on you, man, right, of like your popularity, but then with your name attached
or with the
to
name
it,
like Bruce or
I
shout out Bruce
St.
James,
crazy,
Leroy.
Right.
I really do. I think there's something really cool attached to that psychologically with a lot of people's brains. I know it is for me.
For sure.
I can't speak for everybody, but I know it is for me.
That's my little boy, I got to pick his name, and his name is Adonai, which means God is my master. And I chose that name purposefully for him. I actually had to fight really hard to get him that name, as it turned out. But man, around my way, my family, I have 3 sisters named Princess. I have a brother named Raka Wanio, Wayani Jakai. Like these are all like really powerful names that have like deep, significant meanings to them. And Ramses is the one I ended up with. And I, if my name wasn't Ramses, I wouldn't know who I am. I wouldn't know how to call myself. My dad told me something super weird one time, but he's like, wouldn't surprise me if that's who you were in a past life. So that kind of stayed with me. My dad was like a thinker that he had like Kanye energy, but he was a really brilliant dude. That's just who he was. So
nice.
Who he is, man. I like to talk about my dad like he's still kind of watching over me.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, man.
Ramses, thank you for coming through.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
I know there's like so much more. I literally told him before, like earlier this week, I was like, this is one of those ones like we probably got it 2-parted. Because it's probably gonna be like a 4-hour easy work. Like once he starts getting into the stories.
Yeah, I know I'm detailed.
No, we love it.
So,
we love it. We love it, bro.
And if you wouldn't mind, we would love to spin the block with you. And I would also want, because I want to like dive in. There's so many things when you were talking about. Overcoming certain things, and then you said at a certain point, you realized who you actually were. Right. I would love to dive deep into that.
Yeah.
If you would love to, if you would like to come back, man, I would love to dive deep into that because I think that's super important for a lot of people to hear.
Yeah.
Talking to kids, but also talking to adults in their 50s that still have not reached somewhere of that mental, that are still looking for themselves in some sort of way. And I find that conversation is super important to have, especially in this day and age where people are really trying to find themselves.
Yeah.
And I think as a society, as human beings, I think we are going through some sort of change, and I'm not sure what that looks like, but I know I can feel like something's happening.
Yeah.
And I would love to talk to you.
Well, if you're listening and you want to tune back in, I'll whet your appetite a bit. Just so you know, I was probably, 27. I had a full-fledged career. Just think about how amazing that is, that someone's going to give you money to talk on the radio in the city where you grew up, right? Mm-hmm. So everything is, firing on all cylinders, and I had no purpose. So it doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, how well you think you're doing.
Right.
When that purpose hits you, when that sincere, like I know that I'm capable of doing and saying things, it's just like intent. It's like intention, But yeah, I would love to talk about that, man. If you're listening and you want to tune in, then when part 2 happens,
Yeah.
Or stay on these guys and make sure that they actually deliver part 2. But I'll drive back out here.
Trust me.
For sure. Yeah, and I'll make sure it's on a day when there's no
right.
no traffic. You got to wait an extra hour.
Yeah, they shut down the whole 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. It was still fun.
But thank you so much for joining
us.
Yeah, man. It's been an amazing conversation.
Let them know where they can find you.
So please follow the show. It's at CIVIC CIPHER. That's the most important thing that I'm doing right now. Again, at CIVIC CIPHER. If you are into like daily news, I do a podcast for iHeart. So it's not mine. So the topics I'm not picking. I have producers and they book guests. I don't do any of that stuff. But it's called Our Daily Story. It's on the Black Information Network. It's available through iHeartMedia. And then if you want to follow me personally, which I don't really post a lot, and if I do, it's usually my sons or something that I think is cool.
Right.
But at Ramses RAMSESJA, say hi, and we'll maybe have a conversation and hopefully inspire each other to do a little bit good out here. So yeah.
Well,
anyways, you guys stay safe and you guys stay positive out there.
And we're gonna sprinkle all them links down below. And as always, this is the Gray Space.
Peace.